Well, joining us by satellite to help us understand the controversial DACA issue, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. Senator, we're delighted to have you here. Thank you for joining us from Oklahoma City, where I sure hope it is warmer than it is in Nashville. Thanks for being here.
It is warmer than Nashville, but that we still need to get milk and bread.
Yeah, you're just Southern enough for that, for sure. You were in that meeting the other day where there were both Democrats and Republicans, members of both the Senate and the House, and the president left the cameras in there for 55 minutes. And people were talking about what an incredible insight it was into process that we normally don't see as citizens. Your takeaway from that meeting was what?
It was a remarkable conversation. In fact, one of the media people, as they walked out from that media pool, which was probably 50 or so people that were there, he looked at me across the table and said, "This was unprecedented. We've never had this kind of access into the White House." And I would tell you, I haven't been in a lot of White House meetings, but it was certainly different than anything that I've seen before. There was a lot of conversation back and forth. The president was trying to get to one goal. We've got to determine the scope. What are we trying to cover here? You can't do everything in immigration. We can only do a few things in immigration. And so the main thing that we came away with at the end of that meeting was we are going to do something on border security. We're going to work on chain migration, the visa lottery, and DACA.
I'm not trying to put you in the role of a prophet, but will there be a resolve? Will there be legislation that you come together on that does create border security and at the same time does provide some assistance and help to those 800,000 DACA kids?
Yeah, I'm convinced that there will be, not only because of the bipartisan dialogue that's happening, but because the president also said he would veto anything else that wasn't that. But he also said if Congress can come to an agreement on those four things, he's going to sign it.
What I want to ask you is, are the Republicans going to hold strong, hold fast? Are they going to insist that without border security, it'll be the Democrats who will let the DACA issue explode?
Yeah, there's no question about that. In fact, late in the week, a bipartisan small group came and brought the president a very small package that was mostly DACA and very little border security, and the president said, no, not going to do that. And I think that's entirely appropriate. At the end of the day, we do need to resolve legally the issue of DACA, but we most certainly need to resolve border security.
You know, Senator, I'm very sympathetic to the DACA kids because they didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you know, people say, well, they were illegal, but they didn't come here at 4 years old in their own cars. They came here because their parents brought them, and they didn't have anything to do with it. And I'm very sympathetic to the fact that we need to do something to say, you know, we don't give a ticket to the 4-year-old in the backseat of the car when his father's pulled over for speeding. So let's not punish a child for something he had nothing to do with. But one of the challenges, and you brought this up in what you just said, let's do it legally, because an executive order is not a constitutional way to accomplish this. And I'm not sure a lot of people fully embrace or understand that.
Yeah, what President Obama did in 2012 was did an executive action. It gave no legal access to these individuals. And as you stated correctly, these are kids that came with their parents. They didn't get to make the decision. Their parents made the decision. And so for those individuals, President Obama said, we won't prosecute you for 3 weeks. That's the DACA term, deferred action for childhood arrivals. So it's not a real legal status for them. It's just, we won't arrest you for 3 years. Well, that's no real solution. What President Trump has said is we need to actually get a real solution here so that we don't have just deferred action. We have a decision, and that decision is in law and is real permanence for these individuals and these families.
Senator, do you ever get frustrated as a U.S. Senator because things move so very slow?
Things do move incredibly slow here. Things that are common sense that you would think this could be done in a week sometimes take a year or two. But it's the nature of moving 100 people in the Senate, 435 people in the House, and then the President of the United States. Our system, as you know very well, our constitutional system was set up to make sure there were very few laws because the founders wanted all the laws in the states, not in the federal government. So it's appropriate for it to go slow to give more people input, but not this slow. It's been painfully slow in the process of late.
President Trump got rid of 22 regulations for every new one that was put in the first year in office. How significant is it to begin to devolve the power of the federal government and let states do things?
The primary place where you should get permits, have to ask questions, deal with licensing, what am I going to do next, should be the place that's close to you. You don't want to have to drive thousands of miles to be able to get to Washington, D.C., or to connect with some federal bureaucrat to be able to get an answer to your question. You want to get that done locally. And what President Trump has done so far is to take a lot of the regulatory scheme and send it back to the states as much as possible and to say, get that done there locally. That speeds up business. That means more people can get a job faster. That means businesses can produce products faster. That means they make more money. They pay their people more money. It's common sense.
And Senator, by the way, I want to thank you for your strong pro-life stance. You're speaking this week at an evangelical pro-life conference in Washington, and I hope the people who are in D.C. this week will be able to come and hear you. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight.
Honored to be able to do it.
Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, and to keep up with the senator, his comments on the latest issues, and his very famous list of federal fumbles. Now, this is things that would be funny if your tax money weren't paying for them, including a production of Hamlet for dogs. I'm not making this up. That's actually something you paid for. And he exposes that, so you can visit his website at lankford.senate.gov. Now stay right there, because we have an Olympic-sized surprise in store for you.